All right, welcome back everyone. I hope you enjoyed the break. So let's continue from where we stopped. All right, and now I want to have two resources for the users, but each user should have their own role. So I need to have the clients and I need to have the employees, which also they both are users. Okay, so they still a user, but since those users have their own roles, all right, since they already have their roles, I can use scope, right? So let's go to Laravel documentations and let's get the model scope, which is, I think it's a hashtag eloquence, and where would it be? Query scope, local scope. Yep, hashtag scope. Okay, beautiful. And it takes the query as the builder, which is the eloquent builder query. All right, so now what we need to do, we need to have two scopes then. All right, so we need to have, two scopes. A scope of, well, not employee, right? So a scope where it is an employee and it is a database eloquent, is it? Or eloquent builder. Yep, database. Let's make sure we imported the correct eloquent builder. Yep. And scope also need to be imported. Now return query, and I need to use where relationship, is it? Is it roles? Equal to app role employee value. This is going to be interesting. And then client as a client. So the relationship roles, which is coming from the SPATI relationships, from SPATI permissions relationship, right? And we need, do we need an active scope? No, not really. Because we don't have on the users a status, right? No, we don't. So we might add a status to the user, which will help us also determine. So if we have an employee that is not active anymore, right? If we don't need to include it in. Oh, we're still going to be included, right? But we might have a special tab to it. So let's make PHP artisan make enum for the user status. Okay, and let's get the user status we just created, and it's also going to be a string, and it's also going to implement the has label, and we are going to use app enum, And all I need is active or inactive. So also let's do has color as well, and let's implement the method. And what we are doing, return if it's inactive is a success, which is a teal color, and if it's inactive, then it's going to be a danger color. And let's also add in an icon. So has icon, and let's implement that method, and we return a teeny tick circle O and X circle O. Those just an icons, right? Then in here I can do to add an enum of the status, right? And it's going to be of user status values, and the default should be inactive. Now, the system, to get into this system, is also going to be based on an invitation, but let's worry about that later. All right, so now we're relationship roles. This is going to be interesting, I think. So we check the documentation again. It is a scope, yeah. Scope or relation, role, column. Now, okay, I think we might need the name here. Okay, so no one is in the chat yet, but if there is any technical issue with the quality of the stream or anything, please let me know. I hope everything is working well. So yeah, so the column which is on the roles table, so that's why we do need to have the name here. So where on the roles table, the column name equal whatever value we are passing here, right? So that's how we are getting this scope. Now, from Filament's perspective, what we need to do is we create a resource, so PHP artisan make filament-resource for the employee, right? So the employee, which doesn't exist because we don't have a model called employee. So this one we definitely need to say soft delete, all right? And we are going to use the name, and we need a view, but we don't want the database generated, auto-generated. So now we have a resource for the employee, which means if I test it here, it should fail. Okay, so I do believe if I go to the employee, it should fail, right? Because there is no model employee. So to fix that, I need to update this. In the resource, I need to point it not to use the employee, but to use the user class. All right. It is true that my resource is for what I'm calling an employee, but in reality, it is for the user. And now it says without trash, and I do believe that's because user is not using soft delete, isn't it? Yep, it's because user is not using soft delete yet. All right, so now this means, first of all, it picks up the name here as users. I don't want that. I need the label to say, which I do believe it has a label, is it? Or navigation label, maybe? Yep, navigation label, which is employees. All right, so that fixes the employees. Now the table here, which is showing nothing because there is nothing. So let's say a text column of the name, a text column for the email, and I don't need another text column, I guess. That should be it. And now the interesting part here is this user doesn't have the scope yet, right? Because there is no place for me to assign those roles yet, which means if I come here and get record without global, blah, 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 if I change this as, what did we say? Employee, right? Is that how we do it? If I go to user, what did we call it? We did call it employee, haven't we? We did call it employee to delete the okay, it is returning a builder and it says without global scope. Does that mean I need to pass with scope? But it doesn't really work that way, doesn't it? Or do I need to modify the actual, because this is route binding, get eloquent query. Would that override? I think that will override the route binding. So if I say employee here, and that should disappear. But if I have the user, so let's for now manually give model has roles, because I still need a place for myself to assign that role, right? Because we don't have that role yet, hence it's not there. So maybe we set a filament for the user, a filament resource for the user, and then we might add that to a cluster of settings. So for now, let's just do it this way. And that gives us the users as expected. And then in here, the table, let's do a text column for the name and the email, but also I need a text column for the roles.name, and I will make that as a badge. So that should be empty. Okay, there are no roles, which is expected. If I go into the edit form, all right, what I will be doing is as simple as in the schema form, let's just add a group, and this group schema will be a column span full, but also I'm going to do a columns of 3, and inside it, it will have another group, right? Yeah, left and right group. Okay, so I'm gonna make another group here and another group here. This group will take column span of 2, and this one will take a column span of 1. With the one on the left, I'm gonna add a section, and with that section, I will just keep it simple. All I need to do is a text input for the name. Okay, I'm not gonna allow updating the email for the time being. So I will say that visible or disabled. Okay, so disabled, so you cannot change it and you cannot do anything to it, but I still can see the name. And on the right here, I will add, what do we need to add here? Let's add a select, right? And we're gonna make it for the roles. All right, it will be multiples, and I don't think we need options, but we will need relationship roles of name. We do need to make it searchable, and also let's preload whatever we have in terms of existing roles. So, interesting. Let's see. No options. All right. So let's first of all, let's fix the layout by placing that under a section, and let's revisit this. Roles, it has a name. Okay, so relationship of roles, make it is roles with relationship roles, multiple, preload, and searchable. All right, so that does tick the point, unless we don't have roles. Okay, we don't have roles because we haven't seeded them. So PHP artisan db seed, we haven't seeded the roles that we made. So I was thinking probably from previous that I assumed it was added. So, all right, so if I add an employee role to my user, it should appear here. And if I go to that user and remove, edit, and then remove the employee, let's assume he is a client now, it shouldn't appear in here. Which means if now I can recreate the same thing. All right, so rather than employee, I would say a client. All right, and follow the same concept. if I go to clients and then I will say, nope, there is no client. Of course, it is only a user. It's a normal user. And I need to update the eloquent query to add the scope of clients, which is what we created. So now if I go to users, okay, so I need to differentiate the navigation label here, otherwise it has created that conflict with the users. And now I go to the clients, which there is a user as expected. We just need to put something in the table. So column make name and make email. So that should be good. So now if I remove client, save it, it's not in the client, it's not in the employee as expected. If I update the user and place them under client, they are under client, but they're not under employee as expected. And now let's work, or let's rework icons and the sort of the menu. First, let's create a cluster. Let's just remember how to create a cluster. I think it is under navigation, clusters. All right, so make filament cluster. So PHP artisan make filament cluster, and what should we call it? Yeah, let's call it settings. Nothing wrong with that. There won't be any changes in here except if we register the user resource. Let's register the user's resource with the cluster. So here we would say the settings cluster class, and now that should where did it go? Interesting. I think it might need an extra registration, or maybe it doesn't see it yet. Resources, pages, discover pages and resources. Yeah, but we're not discovering any, we're not discovering the clusters, right? So discover clusters in the, this is pretty much the same, right? So rather than widgets, it's clusters. And in here we need to say clusters, right? Yeah, quite sure it is. All right, now we are discovering those clusters, which makes the settings cluster appears and the users underneath it as expected. Now, let's group this navigation based on a logical sequence, right? So clients and employees, let's call it something, and rosters and timesheets. So what I mean is like grouping the grouping the navigation items based on a logical operations. All right. Let's get some icons. Let's say user. What did we install? We installed Teeny. Okay, so Teeny user O. Let's use that one. So users cluster. Sorry, users in here. And for the resources, for the navigation, Teeny icons, we said user O. Yep, that's nice. Client and employee, let's find an interesting icons for them, which also going to be around the person. Boredom. You know, let's filter it by what we installed. Teeny, right? Yeah, Teeny. There is no icons in Teeny. What else did we install earlier? Tabla. Let's see, Tabla, does they have? They don't have. What about user? Okay, yep, I can work with that. Let's say, let's use Tabla user dollar for the client. Need to close this one and this one. So, no, not table, Tabla. What did we say? User dollar. And for the employee, let's use user bolt. Okay. So Tabla user bolt like that. Definitely not Bitcoin. All right, so those are. They looks really kind of small, right? I think they are kind of small. So let's clean up here. Let's do. What did we do? 1.5, right? npm run build. Yeah, but that's too big, right? That's too big. How far can I push using RAM? CSS is never my strength, but yeah, I think I like that. I can work with 1.25. Yeah, all right. Now let's create a navigation group. All right. Let's do an enum for it. So PHP artisan make an enum for the app nav group. So app nav group, which also will return a string, and I need what are we going to call this? So rosters and timesheet, and later we will do client requests and stuff, which means we're going to have the ops or operations. All right, so let's call it operations. And then we need a way to schedule. Okay, so that can be schedule or maybe scheduling. And what I mean by this is rosters and timesheets, right, will be scheduling clients and employees, which can also be under users, because we're going to add invitations to it as well. So we're going to need a way to group all of those. So let's call it user. Let's call it accounts. All right, let's call it accounts. Let's call it accounts. So now in the dashboard provider, I can register the navigation group, okay? And to register the navigation group, let's visit the documentation again. And with the navigation overview, grouping navigation, registering navigation group with an enum, which is what we did here. Okay, it has a label. We're not going to be adding an icon for the navigation item, I think. So navigation item, no, that's navigation item. We need navigation group. And what does it, navigation group make? Huh. No. Let's visit the docs again. Probably I will register navigation group with the app nav group, and I will start with the operation. What else do we have? By the way, we don't have the operations yet. So let's start with the schedule and then the accounts, right? Which we're not going to be seeing anything yet because nothing is added to those resources or to those navigation group. So employee here, we will add it to the navigation group of app nav group of accounts. So we just import. So now it should be part of the account. Now we place the schedule. We did place the schedule before the account, if I'm not mistaken. So that is going to, now it must be a enum. Okay. So, yep, clients and employees under accounts, and then rosters and timesheet will be under schedule. So rosters will be navigation group of app nav group schedule, and timesheet will be of the same group. So navigation group of app navigation of schedule value, just like that. And now scheduling will be first, and then accounts will come second, because that's how we started it. So schedule first and schedule first and account second, and the logical order of the work will be do rostering and then do timesheets, and at any point in time we can manage accounts. But before that, we need to handle the client's request, where they will request scheduling and stuff like this. But that is for later. Okay, now things that I want to change here is those action buttons. I want them to be button. All right, I want them to be a button. So in any of those tables, so view action, right? So if I do a view action of button, just like that, that's exactly what I want. And we are doing it in the timesheet, which we don't have. So let's do it for the user, so we see the effect of it. So button in here and button in here. And I go settings, users. Okay, so yep, okay, I like it. I like it much better from just a text and icon, but I don't want to do it everywhere manually. Or should I do it manually? So because if I do it globally, okay, if I make it global for the whole panel, I can override the individual rather than doing the individual and then override it. Okay, so let's see how we do it. It's a view action and an edit action. So if I go into my provider, can I do view action configure using, yep, all right. First of all, I want it to be a function. I'm going to do multiple lines in here. The color is primary of the view action. No. Info? What's info looks like? Let's have a look. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yep. I like that. And if I remove from the users, from the table, if I remove the button, it should go back to a normal. Now, if I say action, so action button, that should, in theory, globally do that as a button, which means I can do the edit action configure using the same technique, except I'm not going to be doing the color. I'm only going to be doing the button. Now I can do the individual. If I have like an individual table that I don't want this, then I can just remove it from there. But the overall design or the overall concept, wherever there are those buttons, I would prefer to have them as buttons to bring the user attention to them. Now the user, in here we do need to have the status. So in the user table, name email, also I'm going to be doing a text column of make status with being a badge. Now it's not going to fail, but it's not going to show anything because we haven't migrated that yet. So the user table doesn't have that status yet. Okay, so I guess we need to have a few users. All right. So let's go back to the user factory, database, factories, user factory. So we've generated name, email, password, which is always password. We're going to have a status of user status, active value. And if I go to the user, we need to add that to the fillables. Okay, otherwise we will not be able to save that. And also on the cast, we need to cast that to user status class. All right, so they're all going to be active. Let's see, create users, which we already have a default, so we don't need to worry about this one. Okay. Which means I can do database seeder here with this call or user factory, and what the method is what's in the user factory, which extend from factory count. Okay. I don't need to override custom. So let's create 25 users. All right. Now let's migrate. Let's migrate fresh. So PHP artisan migrate fresh. Let's PHP artisan db seed, which fails because what? Non-static method cannot be called statically. What did I seeding using model factories, user factory. Okay, gotcha. Sorry. So user factory counts something 25. And let's create my user PHP artisan make filament user All right, let's log in again. Let's see what do we have in the user table. All right, so none of them has roles yet, which is fine. And we have 26, which is 25 what we generated plus mine. So I think I need to fix my way of sitting. Sometimes you focus too much on something and then you forget yourself and you slide under the table bit by bit until you completely disappear. Okay, so let's say this user is a client. Okay, this user is my client too. Let's make him a client. So we have two clients, which means if I go to my clients, yep, perfect. As intended. We're gonna automate this soon, so we're not gonna be doing 25 users one by one, but just for the sake of testing an argument, the argument, I'm just making sure they work as intended. Okay, cool. We don't have something in the view yet and nothing in the update yet, but that's not what we want to focus on. At least not yet. All right, so what I'm trying to do, by the way I'm trying to organize everything is into mini sections. All right, and then I start adding the functionalities bit by bit. Right. So I just want to place just the main players. Right. All right, so I think we have enough to start generating, not generating the API, just generating the API documentation. So let's use Laravel scribe. And installation, which is installation here. All right, so that's installed, and then let's publish the configuration. What we are doing, we are developing a platform called CrewSync, which is an operations platform. And for the extra specific details, we detailed everything in the first episodes. If you are interested in the specific details, that's how we started with those ones. And now we're just developing bit by bit as well. Right, so I think the command would be php artisan scribe. Is it? It is scribe. And scribe what? Scribe generate. Okay, so scribe generate. And it should be CrewSync.test/docs. So /docs. All right, I think I want to use the other theme. So let's go to the configuration of it. Scribe. And I think it is somewhere here. It says where we. So type theme. Let's read this one. So type Laravel will generate documentation as blade within blah blah blah. Static will generate static, external static, and external Laravel do the above, but generate a basic template passing an open API spec as a URL, allowing you to easily use docs within an external generator. So that means if I use, where's the themes then? That's the theme and that's the type. Let's see. Is it external? It's in here. That's the one. It should have view external default not found. Where is themes in here? Let's see. More customization. Theming. Config theme for supported option. But that's the link we were on, have we? Ooh. Spotlights, elements. Okay, so the theme needs one of those values. When using external or external Laravel, we need, okay, scalar is the one I'm after. Okay, so the theme is scalar, and this should generate here external static. Okay, and that should generate the docs with, this is not found. Let's try here. What is that? Is it a caching issue? Maybe we need to generate it again. I don't know. So that should have generated in the resource scribe index, and in the route it should comes in. I'm a bit confused about this one. Yeah, so it needs to have external Laravel probably. Okay, with this one, yep. Okay, beautiful. Now if I don't have APIs yet, so let's install Laravel API, right? So now let's go to packages. We're gonna be using Sanctum for authentication. So install API. And that should install the yes, of course, and that activate the API user, and let's make the user has API token, right? Because it's Sanctum. Now we need to regenerate again, so it picks up on whatever API endpoints, but later we're gonna add our own APIs. All right, so these the setup of the documentation is kind of ready, and then we keep adding more and more. All right, so let's put this on charge. All right, so we said that the user will be the client will have, when they log in, they will create a request, right? So, and the client request will be part of the ops section. Right? Let's think about it for a second. We did create the design at some point. Let's revisit that. And this is another project. So it's not this project, it's this one. All right, we need to work on inviting the users. We need to work on the client requests. All right, so PHP artisan make model for the client request, and I do need a migration. Let's see if I can place this where I can see it. And what did we say? We need to know who is the client, which is in this case a user, and the user will be referenced as a client ID this time, but it is a user ID. And we need to know the status of the request, and those are timestamps, because we need to know exactly when do they need, and the type of it is if it's a one-time or a recurring. So create client requests. Let's go to table foreign ID for the user class. But we're gonna call it a client ID. Let's remove the timestamp and add our app migration migrate and pass it the table. We need to know the status. So let's make let's make an enum for it. So PHP artisan make enum of, what did we call it? Client request status. So client request status and client request type. We need both of those. Let's do client request status, which again, it is of string type, and it will implement as label from filament and app use app enum. And the status, which would be pending or filled. All right, so case pending and case filled. Okay. Let's do has color as well. While we are here, let's implement the has color method, and let's return match. Pending is info and filled is, actually pending is going to be of warning. Okay. And has icon as well. Let's implement that method as well. And let's do the same thing for the pending. Let's choose a icon from the teeny. Is it something related to time? Something to wait, something to load. Yep. All right, so loader, let's use loader O. Something has a relationship to a complete, finished. Let's use a tick, but a tick with clip file tick. No. Okay, shield. I like that shield. So let's see. Shield tick O. Is it? And if we do the X, it has a shield X. Okay, so I don't want to give the impression, like if I use the X, I don't want to give the impression of something is wrong. So I'm going to be using just the shield O. So just the shield O. Oh. Now I can add table enum of the status client request status values with pending. The second one, which is type, again, it's a string, and we're going to implement has a label. Use app enum and a case one off. And recurring. Yeah, I don't think I need icons for it, but I might need a color for it from a visual perspective while the admin is working, so they can visually identify the type of the request. So for the one off, I'm going to use info, and for recurring, I would use secondary. Wait, do we have secondary? Did we create a secondary? I can't remember. Let's go to our. Yeah, we did. We did have that one. So now, we create the same thing with enum of type, and it's a client request type values with on off. Okay, what else do we need? We need to know the start and the end. So it's a timestamp, and it starts at, can't be nullable because this is definitely required. All right, so that's the shift. Or that's the client request, is when the client is requesting certain shift. But also we have a location ID, aka where the shift is going to happen, or where is the client is where the client is requesting this employee or this shift to be covered on. And for our design, we've created a locations, and those locations, let's see, where did we create those? Yeah, okay, so the location on its own So the location is tied to the contract, and the contract is what tied to the user, which we don't have yet. So we did jump 2 models. So we need contracts and we need locations. First, let's work on the contracts. Okay. So let's make a model of contract. Create contracts. So with the contracts, we need to know the user, but we need to know it as a client ID. And that contract will need a start date and end date. I'm not going to make it timestamp, date for the contract, and a status, right? So let's make an enum. So PHP artisan make an enum for the contract status. So with the contract status, which is going to be of type string, and obviously we're going to implement has label, and we're going to use our app enum and the case of active, inactive, completed, and we need a draft. A draft because in case they are creating a new contract, or they just filling out the contract details, so before it goes into active. And here we're going to draft is in info, active is success, warning inactive, completed is danger. No, completed is warning, inactive is info, active is success, and draft is secondary. I don't know, maybe. Once we have a visual on, we will decide to change it. So an enum for the status of the contract, and it will be of type contract status values, with default being a draft. What else did we say we're going to be working on beside the status? We need to have start date and end date. So table of date starts on and ends on. And obviously we need to remove the timestamp, and we add our shared tables as well. Now let's go to the contract model. Let's make sure we inherit from our own app model, not user. This is not necessarily needed anymore. And we need to have the casts of the status, which will be a contract status, and starts on, which is a date, ends on, which is also a date, and that's pretty much it, right? So status starts on and ends on, and also we need to add it to fillable, which is client ID status starts on and ends on. Client request, which is what we created earlier, is also going to inherit from our app model. So this is not needed anymore. Also, we need to cast. What did we need to cast in here? We need to cast status and type, right? Which is a client request type, and starts at, sorry, which will be datetime, and ends at, which also datetime. So those are 1, 2, status type, starts, ends, and then fillable, which also status. Also, let's add the client ID. Okay, so we have the contract. Let's link it to contract, which belongs to user, right? So belongs to client in this case. So it belongs to the user class with the key of client ID. And then the client request, which also belongs to the user. All right, so it also belongs to the client in this case, with belongs to the user under the key client ID. Okay, so now if I go to the user and I want to grab the user's so has many client requests, okay, which goes to the client request class, but with the key client ID, and also has many contracts, which also a contract class under the key client ID. So this is the important part. Remember the keys. Okay. So under the contract, or part of the contract, we have the locations, aka not location as a GPS location. So this is important to differentiate. We're not talking about the GPS location. The GPS location is a field within the location itself. But the locations, which if once the company owns a contract, where are the possible locations of the work when they start requesting staffing, right? So right, yeah, so let's create that PHP artisan make model of location with a migration. So let's close those ones and let's create locations. All right, first the location is linked to the contract. Okay, so which contract this location belongs to. We don't need the timestamp. Let's do the app migration class and pass it the table. What else do we need with the location? We need the location type, but I'm not going to be using an enum for the location type, and the reason for this, there are so many. Okay, there are so many types, so I will say location type ID. Okay, which means we just need to create another table. The location has a name and an address in the text form. So name of the location and the address in the text form. I'm gonna make them nullable, so I control them through the business logic layer. And in this one, I'm going to use a geography, which is the actual location, with a what is it called, subtype of point, and the default SID Okay, 4326, which is latitude and longitude, so the default one. Okay. Now I just need another model to control the type, so location type. So create location types. This one will have nothing more than the name. So app migration, migrate past the table, and the name. And let's do description, you know, why not? Let's do description. All right, so location type will inherit from our app model. Okay. And it should be, has many locations, and the location class. Okay. Which means the location now needs to extend our app model as per usual. And we need to say it belongs to which contract first. Okay. So it belongs to the contract class, and that's too many columns in here. And also it belongs to which location type, and in this case location type class. Okay, so that covers the location. You know what, the location type, I might even add an image to it. No, let's just keep it simple. All right, so now we do have the contract. We know who's the client ID. We know the base details. We have the location, and we need to add location, and we need to create table for the location type, but I will make it nullable. So with the locations, we do have the base information. That means I can now, for the location, for the create client requests, I can see, or I can say, I am requesting for a location class, but also I will make it nullable. Which means I can go to the client request, and I need to say it belongs to a location with the location class. Which means in the location, it should have as many client requests with the client request class. And what have I done here? So client, oh my god. So client request of the app model. And just back here. Okay. Alrighty. Alright, so let's migrate. So PHP artisan migrate. So we migrate those new models, and also let's create the resources. So PHP artisan make filament resource for what? For the contracts. And the contract won't have a name. let's have an ID. Let's not create that in a cluster. We do need a read only. I don't want to make it through the database. I want to have a full control. So contracts will go under accounts. All right. So filament, resources, contracts, and its navigation group will be app navigation group of accounts value. And I probably want, yeah, clients, contracts, employee. Yeah, that should be fine. So documents. Let's make a good text document. Yep, that's a good representation of a document. So teeny icons with documents O, and O is for outline. That wasn't the one I selected. So Alt, okay, document Alt, is it? Or document, is it Alt, document, documents. Nope. So doc, what is doc on its own? Nope. Documents. Text document Alt O. That's the one. Yeah, text document Alt O. So that's that. Locations, on the other hand, will be a nested resource. I would place it. Maybe. But I still want a individual place to control it. Should I? Anyway. Let's create a resource for the client request. And it has an ID. It's not in cluster. I still need a read only, and don't generate from the database. So client request is going to be with the operation navigation menu. So navigation group, app navigation group with ops value. Let's pick a nice icon for it. So, arrow. Let's see what Teeny Icons has in terms of the arrow. So, arrow down O. So, Teeny Icons, arrow down, circle O. Yep. So arrow down just to signify something is incoming. All right, so that's pretty much. Okay, let's review here. What else do we need? All right, incident reports. Incident reports will be part of the operations, right? Yeah. So there is reports. We do need to do reports. As in general reports. Now invoice and invoice entries, invoice lines, I guess, but probably we made that mistake of naming. Invoicing will be in the accounts, right? So let's create reports and incident reports, or just incident reports for the time being. Let's create a model for incident report, or a report, and then we just, no, there will be too many reports and there will be too many incident reports. So it's better to separate the two. Okay, so let's keep it this way, incident reports. All right, so create incident reports. What did we say? The incident report, we need to know for which entry ID, for which roster entry ID. And reported by, okay. So table foreign for the user reported by, and for roster entry class because that means the create roster entry, we need to specify where the entry for, yeah, we need to know the entry for which location. Right? Otherwise we won't be able to tell where is he working, where they will be working. Yep, okay. So that means location should has many roster entries with roster entry class, and the roster entry, we need to know it belongs to which location. Location class. So that's for the roster entry. And also the roster entry will have has many incident reports. Okay, so has many incident reports. Incident report class. We need to have a text of the description of the incident report. We need to have a timestamp of when it has been reported and the incident itself at. So incident at itself. We need a enumeration for it of the type of it, which is a minor incident, major incident, critical incident. It's minor or major. Just minor and major. And if there is more, we deal with it later. So PHP artisan make in enum of the incident incident type. So incident type, which is of type string, which also implements has a label. We're going to use our app enum, lowercase minor and major. Let's do a has color as well. And for minor is going to be a warning. For major is going to be a danger. Not gonna make an icon for it. So that's the incident type, but also we need a status. Okay, so the status of it as well. So incident status, also a string, implement has a label, and use app enum, and the case is open or closed. Okay, also has a color. Let's implement that method with open is a danger and closed is a success. All right, so now we can add those to it. So table enum for the status with incident status values, and enum for the type of the incident, and that is incident type values. I'm not going to have defaults for them. It needs to be filled by the user. Okay, so if I go to the incident report model, we're going to inherit from our app model, and this is going to be needed anymore. We do have some casts. We have the type, which is an incident type class, and then we need to cast the status to incident status class. We also have a fillables with type and the status, and also reported at, incident at, and description, which means reported at needs to be daytime, and incident type, incident at, which also need to be. And we remove the app stamp from here, and we migrate using our shared columns. So incident at, reported at, description, type, roster entry maybe need to be in the fillable, roster entry ID, and reported by, which also seems to be good. All right, so incident report belongs to reported by, aka the user who reported that, which means we need to find the user created incident report. So has many Let's copy this one because we're using a trait, so it will not create a auto completion, which is good. So incident reports, which has the incident report model, and the key is reported by. All right, so now we know the incident belongs to who wrote it. Also, it belongs to roster entry. So it belongs to a roster entry class, because that's how we created them. So it belongs to which user and belongs to which roster entry. Roster entry, which will have two incident reports, and the incident report, which is what we just did. We said it belongs to who wrote it, and the roster entry as well. Now location, okay, location, we need to know it will has many through, okay, incident reports. So it will have many incident report class through the roster entry. Okay, cool. What was the last migration we did? Did we? Yeah, okay. So let's roll back the last migration. So PHP artisan migrate rollback, and then now we can migrate. All right, so now we need to have incident report under operation. So PHP artisan make filament resource for the incident report. It will have an ID. Would you like in a cluster? No. Generate a view and download configuration from the database. Now let's bring it down to the operation. So filament resource, incident report, and the navigation group is in the app navigation group of operations. And let's pick up a nice icon for it, or let's say danger, anything related to danger, warning. Let's see if there are other then danger. Boom, 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 boom. Warning. Incidents. Okay, I like this. And this one is part of the carbon icon. So what was the command to install? So filament icon install carbon icons. Do you want installation? Yep. And we want to generate for the carbon under the default. And which one did we choose? It is incident reporter. Okay, so carbon icons. Yeah. Okay, carbon icons. Carbon icons incident reporter. What else did we create in the last batch of models? So location type will be part of the settings. Okay, so let's create that. So PHP artisan make filament resource for the location location type, and location type will have a name, I guess. Is that correct? Let's create location types. Yep, it has a name, so let's use name here. Are you gonna put it in a cluster? Yes. Which cluster? We're gonna be using this cluster. We do want a read only, do not generate it from. So it is under location type. So let's see if we have a location icon. So location, what did we install? Carbon. Let's see, carbon. Yeah. Location company? No. Yeah. Okay. Let's use that. All right. So clusters. And under that will be carbon. Why I keep writing location company like that. Okay. And later we will change the buttons, titles, and stuff. What else did we create model-wise? So timesheet entry will be a it will be a sub-resource of the timesheet, so it doesn't need to be aka nested resource. Roster entry will also be a nested resource to the roster. Location type will be a general location incident report. Okay, let's go back to our ERD and see what else we need to do. Okay, now policies and procedures, which is also part of the operations. So let's create that. Well, I don't think policy will be a reserved keyword, isn't it? Let's have a look. Let's clean up here. So PHP artisan make model for policy with a migration and a procedure with a migration. All right, so create policies table. What do we have in the policies? We have title, description, and effective date. And we need to have a status as well. So status, it's either active, inactive, or draft. Okay. So first string name and description as a text, and app migration, which has the table. And in here, we're going to be using one of those keys, probably attachments. Okay, to if it's a PDF as well, or actually let's have it as a specific document. All right, but let's make it nullable just in case if the policy will have multiple documents. Never seen that before. Usually it's a single document, but for whatever reason, if there is multiple documents, we can add that to the attachments. All right, so name, description, type, we said we need a status. So PHP artisan make enum for the policy status. So with the policy status, which is of type string, which also implements has label, we're going to use our app enum, and we're going to have our case active and active, and on top of that we need to have a draft. Let's also implement has color, and we return match with draft as a info, active success, inactive as warning, because there is, oh no, let's make it danger. Let's emphasize the fact it is out of commission. So table enum of the status, and then policy status values. Let's have a default of a draft for now. So now we do need to have a timestamps of effective from or effective at. All right, so let's go to the policy model, which is we're going to extend our app model. We do have casts, which is the status, which is a type of policy class. We do have the effective at as a and the fillable, which also name and description, and also documents. So those are the fillables: status, name, description, document, effective at. And for casting, status and effective at. All right, so let's migrate that. PHP artisan migrate, and let's create a resource for it. So filaments, PHP artisan make filament resource for the policy, and the policy does have a name. I'm not gonna create it in a cluster. I do need the view don't load from. So with the policies, the navigation group of it is going to be app navigation group of operations. It's like that. And policies, let's pick a nice icon for it. So what do we say? Rule. So carbon rule. That's a carbon icon rule. All right, so those are the policies. Let's emphasize the sequence. So client request 1, 2, 3. Let's see if later we do need to do that, but for now, that's good enough. All right, so let's do procedures. So procedure type. Why did we have a procedure type? I don't think there is a procedure type, right? Because procedure is procedure, which is pretty much a reflection of what we did with the policy. So create procedure table. I think we migrated, did we? Yeah. Okay. So PHP artisan migrate rollback. So let's roll back that migration. Procedures, which again is going to be a string of name, and we have a description of a string for the documents, which also nullable. We're going to use our shared migration of table. So procedures is, do we have procedure that is effective at? Yeah, because we still want to track the history of the issued procedure. So at some point in the future, we might be able to reflect on the historical versions of a specific procedure, which reminds me, we do need to have a we might need to have some numbering system. But anyway, let's go with a timestamp of effective at, and then we create PHP artisan make enum for the procedure status. Procedure status, which also of type string, and it also implement has label. Use our app enum, and it is a draft, published, archived. No, I would prefer active, inactive. Alright, let's do has color as well. Let's implement the method, and we're returning match this draft info, active success, inactive is a danger. So now we can do an enum of the status, which will be procedure status of type values, with draft being the default. So procedure model, which also needs to extend our app model. It has casts definitely, which is the status, which has a procedure status, effective at, which is a datetime, and fillable, which is name, description, status, and effective at, and documents. Which makes me wonder if the policy, we did include that document. Yeah, name, description, document status. All right, so that's better. Now we can migrate. So PHP artisan migrate. and then PHP artisan make filament resource for the procedure. Procedure does have a name. I'm not going to create it in a cluster. I do want to view, don't load it from the database. And so procedures in here. Okay, beautiful. So let's go find it, add it to the navigation group of app navigation group of operation. Policies procedure. Let's have a something similar, or maybe steps. No. Operation. Not opera. Workflow. Something has to have something with the workflow. I don't see if carbon icons will have something. Yeah, this icon is too complicated. What are the others? This one nice, this one nice. Okay, I like this one. So this is what, huge icons. So let's install the icons, which is huge icon. Yes. And now let's generate the enum for huge icon. Let's use the default. And what is it called? Workflow square. So huge icons, workflow square 9, is it? Yep, square 9. Let's save, let's have a look. Let's see, yeah, procedures, all right. Okay, so policies, what do we have in the policies? So create policies. So name, description, and the document, and the effective date. So we're going to have a form of 2/3, right? So policies, schemas, the form, which will have a group make. What did I do? Not scribe attribute group. Okay. We're going to have a group from the schema components, and we're going to make where it is column span full. All right, so it's going to span the full width, but it will be made of 3 columns. And inside it, there will be a group that is column span of 2 columns, and the other one, which will be of 1 column. Inside that, I'm gonna add a section. And inside this one, I'm going to add 2 sections. So 2/3 with 1 section, and the third, which has 2 sections. Here, we're going to have a text input for the name, which will be required. All right, so create policy. So we set name and description. Description will be a rich editor of description, but it's not required. Then on the right, I'm going to have the toggle buttons for the status, and the options will come from the policy status class, right? And the default will be policy of draft. And I want those toggle buttons to be in line. All right, so name, description, draft, active, and active. Okay, what else do we have? We have the actual document and the date when it's effective. So let's do date picker here for effective at, and it is it required? What did we do? Effective at, well, it's not required. Okay, I'm not going to use the native, so I'm going to use false. Select that. And did we do effective at as timestamp? So it's not date, it's date time picker. I don't think they have. Let's visit the documentation. There is no need for us to guess. So date time picker, they do have date time picker. Yeah, okay. So they do have date time picker. I just need to import it. All right. So remove the. Okay. So effective at and the time. So effective at, I'm going to label it to effective from, and I do need to do the time zone. Is it time zone? Yeah. I do need to do the time zone, but do we need so what else do we have? Time zone. Do they have get time zone? I don't think they do have a get time zone. Let's find out from the documentation. So Command K, time zone, date time picker, time zone. So this is if I want to specify the exact filament time zone. Okay, so there is a filament time zone facade. So let's say filament time zone get, which gets the app time zone, right? Which gets the app time zone. But if I want to show the time zone, okay, so it by default it's already doing that, but what do I probably want to do is probably a prefix, add the prefix. Yeah, okay, so to add the prefix, just to show the user what time zone they are working on. And the time zone right now is UTC because that's what I have, I think, in the .env, right? So time zone, no. UTC, no. So that means in Laravel, I need to find the time zone, which is, I believe it is called time zone. So let's find that from the configuration of the app, name, environment, URL, time zone. All right, so if I use the configuration, that's already is picking up from the env. So if I switch that to env with app time zone, otherwise use UTC, right? So now that means I'm already on UTC because I don't have a time zone, right? So if I have a time zone in here, if I have an app time zone of AW, so Australia, Perth, so that should reflect here, Australia, Perth. All right. And to be honest with you, probably that's not a good place for it. The reason for this, because if I go smaller screens like this, say for example, that two words will take much of the space. So probably we add it as hint instead of a prefix. So do they have a hint? Yep, so let's use that. So with the hint, let's place the time zone. Let's see how that looks like. Okay, yeah, that's better. That's definitely better. I can add a prefix icon of a calendar or something. So let's see. Calendar with huge icon is the one we just installed. This one looks nice. So calendar 3. But I don't want to individually add it. I want to add it to all. So let's go to our provider and let's configure the date time picker. And let's configure that using again, let's use a function in here. And let's use this. I don't need the format as of yet, but I would say component, a prefix icon, which we said it's going to be huge icons of calendar. Which one? Calendar 3. Yeah, there we go. Calendar 3. All right, so that should apply to all. But that's for So yeah, okay. Next, we have in the form the file upload, which will make for the document. That one will be previewable, will be downloadable, and will be openable. I'm not going to specify it's an image or an image icon, but I will leave it the way it is like this. So now I can just upload a document. So the only thing so far required is the name. And to make this is really useful for others, at some point we're going to add some helper text as well. All right, so let's fake a bit of that here. Let's pick up this and let's upload some sort of a document. Download. So let's upload an image. Cool. All right, so that's that. Now in the policies, let's do the table. Resources, policies, tables, and in the table, let's do a text column for the name, and let's make that searchable as well. Let's do a text column for the status. Okay, so the status, and that is going to be a badge. All right. And as you can see, the color of the badge is reflective to, because it's an enum. Okay, for the, you know what, for every column, since we did that as a searchable, it does appear. Okay, since we do that, we want things to be reordables, and let's do spatty sortable. Okay. Or did we do that already? Let's find out. So app migration. No, we haven't done that. So let's install Eloquent Sortable. And let's publish the configuration. And the default configuration, it says order column. All right, so that's what we just published in terms of the configuration. So if we go to the configuration and confirm that it is order column, and I do believe I'm happy with that. Should be all right. Yeah. Or maybe just in case in the future, if I decided to change it, let's make an enum for it. So PHP artisan make an enum for the app order. Let's go app order. This one is of type string, and what exactly I'm doing. Yep. Okay, let's go with app order column. Okay, let's go with app order column, or just column, because it's app order column. Okay, app order column. And in the app migration, we need to create an integer for it called app order column value. All right, it is not nullable, but it's default at 0. Okay. So that means we're going to roll back our last migration. And then we're going to need to update that in our app model. Okay, and in app model, we need to add what? We need to add sortable, implement sortable, and uses sortable trait. So implements sortable and use sortable trait. And in this case, even if one of the models that we use doesn't have and we need to also app order column value as a fillable as well. So in this case, even if I wanted to change that column, at least in my logic, I won't have to change it. So now let's migrate again. And now we go into the policies. Let's add faker. Let's add something. I don't need an image for now, so I don't have to wait. And I should have also faker, create another faker, create. All right, so we need to update our table to be what? Reorderable. And to be reorderable, I need to pass it the column name and the default sort, which will be again of the same. So column. All right, beautiful. So if I do the update, it should be updated. So Peter is first. Let's place Peter as the third, and let's refresh. Let's go somewhere else and come back, and it is always of that same. Now I want to update the order of the columns itself, right? The table columns name. So maybe I want the status before the name. And that is a reorderable columns, I do believe it is. Yep, it is reorderable columns, which I can do status before. And I want this to be globally applicable. Okay, I want this globally applicable. So let's use our provider again. Let's use our provider and let's configure. What should we configure? It's the table, right? It is the table. Configure using a function, and we say table reorderable columns. And I do believe that will apply it globally with every table. For filters, we will deal with the filters at another time. All right, so I do want to have tabs based on the status. So we're gonna have a tab for all and a tab for each status. So policies, pages, and list pages. I do believe it's in the list pages. So get tabs. Yep, it is get tabs. All right. So what do we need to do here? We need to return an array of keys and values. So every key will be of a type tab make, and let's do nothing. So that means I will have all, and if I do, does PHP have a spread operator like that? That's interesting. I don't know. I don't think so. All right. Okay, so for tabs, let's make for each of policy status, for each of the policy status values. Is it value? Yeah, maybe a status. Let's make a tab key, which is in this case the value, and then we make the label, right? And then let's return an array merge. Let's merge the two. You know what, for the fun, let's see, does it have tabs? It does. It does have a spread operator. No, it doesn't. Value on a string, so cases. Policy status label. So tabs, what? No, it's not label, it's get label. Excuse me. So yeah, PHP does have a spread operator. That's nice. Like what is it called? Dart. Here we go. Something we learn every day. All right, let's do draft active inactive. So draft active inactive. Yeah. Let's add the badge as well. Okay, so make no. Let's add a badge, and the badge will be a function. Is it? Oh my god. Come on. Well, first of all, we need to modify the query, right? Because we don't have the query separation yet. So let's do that first, right? Because right now, if you press on any of those, it does nothing, right? So let's visit the documentation, which I do believe it is not forms. It's under documentations of no. Layouts, tabs, is it? Yeah, tabs. No, it's not under tabs. Widgets, no, it's not widgets. Advanced testing, plugins, components, not components, definitely. And it's definitely not tables. And layouts, maybe, yeah, maybe layouts. But that takes me back to the same here. Persistent, removing, using, disabling. You know, let's make some guesses. I mean, why not? Modify, here we go, modify query using the status of a value. So that's inactive, and nothing is active, and we have to draft, and all is all. And let's do a badge with a function also that return exactly return get records query. I don't think that's I don't think that's definitely not. I do believe here it accepts the query. I do believe it injects the query. Does it? I would be surprised if it doesn't. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think it injects. I don't think it injects the query, so we will be limited to which model we're using. So policy where status is status counts. And the badge color will be status get color as well, which is the actual enum, because for every enum we have is now I don't like the tabs to be in the middle. I want them to be, first of all, spread out on full length, and I want them to also be left hand. And this is my worst enemy. I'm really bad at CSS. So let's see how we're gonna do this. So this one, or this one, or this one, or no. So apparently this one. This is the FISC components, FISC tabs, flex direction column, display flex. Let's see, align content, start, no. Align items, start, no. Is it flex direction? No. Nope. What else beside the, or is it not this one? Maybe it's FI tabs. Okay, let's refresh quickly. Let's make sure, are we working on FI tabs? But FI tabs is only this much. Display flex, align. Yeah, I don't think. Because width is 100%. Yeah. Okay. It wasn't taking those commands because it wasn't at 100% length. So that means if I go to resources, CSS filament, our theme.css. What did we do? FA, is it tabs? First of all, width is 100% and align content as a start. Is it no content? npm run build. Not sure if it's align content, but we're gonna find out soon. Yeah, it is. It was a lucky guess. I'm not gonna pretend knowing what everything I just did, because CSS is not my strength. So let's be thankful to the good luck. All right. So we have those tabs. What else do we need to do? That should be good. So see. We don't have the effective in the table. So what I'm doing is app filaments, resources, policies, table, and I need to create the text column or make the effective at, is it effective at? Can't remember. Yeah, effective at, and I want it to be a date. Right. And we need to be a date time. Sorry, date time. But the time, can we format the time to be without the second? And we do day, month, year like this. So sorry, there is no slash in here, not like this. We do it this way. All right, so 17 December 2025, and then the time. And is it do we need to do AM, PM? No. Yeah, probably we need to. But we need a bit of space in here. All right, so now whenever somebody creates a policy or update a policy, we do need to remember we need to track who is doing what. So in the policies, in the pages of create, all right, so we can override after something. What is that something? Let's go find out. I can't remember. Before, after, after create. Okay, so after create, that's what we can use. Or we can also so rather than going 2 trips to the database, why don't we mutate the data? Okay, and then we return the data after we fill the data with created by. Is it created by? Yeah, created by, updated by. So let's fill this one with the auth ID, right? So let's mutate before the create, which means in the edit we can follow the same process, mutate before the save, right? And then we do need to return the data, but the data updated by, we do the same. So in here, we can create the table, and we can do a text column of created by dot name, okay, and updated by dot name. So now if I view the table, there is nothing. By the way, let's make them toggleable, because toggle hidden by default and toggle. Do I need them both? Yeah, I don't think I need them both, right? Or probably. But right now there isn't much because, well, we haven't saved it. But now if I update this one, my name should appear, which hasn't. So why is that? So policies, are we in the right thing? So policy, edit policy, return data, mutate data before save, which is what we doing, right? So if I update, because I haven't updated it. So let's update this. And nope, nothing. Why is that? Updated by, and in the table, what is the table? Policies table, updated by dot name, created by dot name. All right, so is it not fillable? Policies, it does inherit from the model. Model has created updated by. It has a method of updated by. It has by. So it does have everything. Everything checks out as it's supposed to. And it is not saving. So let's see. All right. First of all, let's check database policies. Is policy saving? Well, it's definitely not saving updated by or deleted by or anything. And the reason for this, because there is no field. Is it not being called? You know what? Let's debug this quickly. Let's dump the data. So edit, save. So updated by 24 or 26 or whatever that is. So the field is there. It's not going through the database, which means it's something telling me mutate form data before save. Mutating the data before save. Is it not part of the... Something wrong with the... Created by, updated by. app model created by is fillable. Okay, so if I go with 26 for the sake of this one is not reading to, even though oh my god, deleted. Why did I go deleted? So let's make some as a created and some as a updated, so it does. Okay. Cody. Why is that? Why? Does that mean failable is not working as it intended? Okay. Let's see if it's the fillable issue. So updated by. Let's manually add it to the fillable. Let's see if we update Cody with something else. All right, interesting. So our fillable is not working as planned. Why is that? Why? Why would you be not? Why? Is the original fillable takes? I don't think it takes. All right, let's go back. Model has attribute. Let's see the method fillable. Where is it? It's not in here. Has global scope, relationship, unique height, attributes, guard, attribute, transformation. Is it in here fillable? No, it's not in here. So that means if I go into has attributes, make sure it's not here. Filler. No, okay. What my gut it's telling me is that we made the mistake here by using the wrong method. So first, this is a protected, okay, and it doesn't take the fillable as a variable. It actually uses this fillable, which is what we made the mistake with. Access level fillable must be a public. Well, it is protected here, but the access level here is public. Because it's instantiated probably after. So the signature is actually correct. Yeah. Okay. So the signature was correct, which means we're not going to be using this fillable, but we are going to use whatever I've done. All right, so which means whatever the framework will inject into the method is what we're going to merge together and return. And must be public app model fillable, and that is this one. Okay, that makes sense, which means now if I update Peter, all right, it should be working as intended, but it's not. What's going on? That's not good. That's not good. You know what? Let's dump fillable here, because it should tell me when I query a specific model, but it's not. Yeah, see if I can have one of my old reliable code, which I have it here. Which I don't have fillables, obviously. Because I was doing guarded. Okay, so this is not good. So fillable, what is merge fillable? What does it do? Maybe that's the right one we should be using. And it doesn't return, I think. Does it return? Not sure if it returns. This is really bad. This is really bad. Because I don't want to do fillable per every model. So where would it be? Arrayable? No. Array access has broadcast JSONable URL. So it definitely it's in the attribute, has attributes, right? So because this is where the casts. And fillables is not here, so has relation, has guards attributes. Yep, okay, so this is the fillable, get fillable, and fillable. Return this. So that means if I override this one, I see where we went wrong. We need to merge this fillable okay, we need to merge this fillable with the incoming fillable, and then return this. Okay, And this is the app model. Let's see. I probably assumed it's going to work same as the cast, but it's not, which means to prove it's the fillable issue, let's do guarded. Let's disable the fillable. Let's make sure it's actually the fillable issue, right? But it's not. Well, actually, you can't have. Yeah, you can't have both. You can't have both. All right. I'm not gonna waste too much time on this one. I will debug that later and come back to it. But fillables definitely needs to be tested more. Okay. All right. So we are 3 hours. Let's take a rest and come back later tonight for another few hours as well. Let's do later. Apparently, I forgot myself again and keep sliding under the desk. All right. Thank you very much for being here with me, and I will see you after the break. Thanks again. See you later.